بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وتاج المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله المتقين وصحابة المجاهدين ومن سار على نهج مكتفى أثرهم إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وتقى. اللهم ارزقنا إخلاص القول والعمل. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل يا رب العالمين. حارث, can you recite سورة الماعون بإذن الله؟
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون.
جزاكم الله خيرا. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين. Allah Ta'ala, He begins the surah with a question. And He says, أرأيت, have you seen? Have you seen, O Muhammad, speaking to our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, have you seen the one that denies the day of deen, meaning the day of judgment? Now, subhanAllah, you'll find this often in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala uses أرأيت, right? أرأيت followed by something. أفرأيت إن متعناهم سنين. أرأيت من اتخذ إلهه هواه. Right? Have you not seen? And the whole idea of this usloob or questioning in this way is to provoke reflection. So Allah Ta'ala, in essence, is asking our Prophet ﷺ, to reflect and to think about, have you seen the one that rejects the day of judgment? And if reflection is what is asked by Allah Ta'ala to our Prophet ﷺ, then of course us as well, right? This whole objective of these surah and going over these surah and tadabbur of the Quran is that we reflect. And truly the surah is the difference between iman and kufr, iman and nifaq. Right? And it's important to keep that in mind. So Allah Ta'ala says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Have you seen the one that rejects or denies the day of judgment? Now Allah Ta'ala described the day of judgment as a deen. Like Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Fatiha, what does He say? What does Allah Ta'ala say? مَالِكِ يَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Right? Allah Ta'ala says, مَالِكِ يَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Ad-deen, in essence, means al-jaza, means recompense. Meaning, recompense. But there's a difference. There's a difference between ad-deen and al-jaza, and Allah Ta'ala very specifically and very particularly said Maliki yawm ad-deen, and not necessarily Maliki yawm al-jaza, or أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ, and not أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالْجَزَاءِ. Though the meaning is similar. So let me just mention that one more time. So, ad-deen means al-jaza. It means recompense. Right? However, ad-deen means as well that a person is subjugated and subdued and forced to submit to this recompense, whereas simply al-jaza does not mean that. Right? So for example, a person can come over your house and help you move in. Right? And you're really appreciative of the person saying, hey, take these $50. Right? And the person says, no, refuses to take it. Right? The jaza is there, the compensation is there, right? But you cannot force a person to actually take it. Right? A person is committed a crime, and before the person is criminalized, the person runs away to Canada, whatever. Right? So the penalty is there, right? The recompense is there, but actually forcing the criminal or the person to submit to it isn't possible. Allah Ta'ala is saying on Yawm al-Qiyamah, everyone will be held accountable for every action that they have done in this world, and nothing will be lost from accountability. Everybody will be held accountable. Allah Ta'ala, ya ikhwat al-kiram, He says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. And then Allah Ta'ala says, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. Yet between these two ayat, there is something that is said implicitly. There is something that is implied, but it is not explicitly mentioned. And that is I'll say it in English. If you and that is if you want to know, one second. And that is if you want to know what his attributes are, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. Right? Allah Ta'ala is saying, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Have you seen the one that rejects the day of judgment? And now what is implied here is if you want to know what his attributes are, who's his? Who is Allah Ta'ala talking about when he implies and he says, if you want to know what his attributes are, meaning the one that rejects the day of judgment. Right? So Allah Ta'ala is saying, if you want to know what his attributes are, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. Then that is the one that harshly and callously rejects the yatim. And we'll get into what yatim means in a second. But now look how Allah Ta'ala says, فَذَلِكَ. Look how Allah Ta'ala says, فَذَلِكَ. When describing this person that rejects and denies the day of judgment, look how Allah Ta'ala says, then that is. Why doesn't Allah Ta'ala say, then it is? فَهُوَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. Why did Allah Ta'ala say, then it is the one that harshly and callously pushes away or shoves away the yatim. Allah Ta'ala says, فَذَلِكَ. Then that is. Because Allah Ta'ala is signifying how far away this person is from the guidance of Allah Ta'ala. How astray, how far away this person is from guidance and iman and taqwa and deen. We ask Allah Ta'ala for afiyah. Allah Ta'ala says, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ doesn't just mean to push away or to shove away, but to do so callously, to do so with cold-heartedness, right? To do so with harshness. To push away, to shove away harshly the yatim. And the yatim, often translated in English as the orphan, but it means in Arabic, the one that has lost a father and they are below the age of pubescence. Right? Now, ikhwati al-kiram, just stay with me here. This is really important. Subhanallah. Allah Azza wa Jal, here in the surah, Allah Ta'ala is comparing the attributes of the people of Iman and the people of Kufr. Now, if we look at the broader picture, Allah Ta'ala is saying the attribute of a person of Kufr is cruelty. It is cruelty. But Allah Ta'ala brings one of the most extreme examples of cruelty. Right? Because a person can, be harsh and callous and mean to people that come to the masjid, to their spouses, to people at home, to their kids maybe, right? From time to time. But to the orphan, harshly push and reject and push away and callously deal with the one that has no father to protect him or her, has no father to nurture them, right? Has no sense of protection, and you're evil to this person. So what does Allah Ta'ala saying here? He's mentioning the attribute that the kuffar have, that the people of kufr have, which is cruelty, but bringing one of the most extreme examples to display that. So here, subhanallah, let's draw this out. So if Allah Ta'ala, so let's just say, let's put that line here. Right? Let's just say at the opposite end here, there is kufr, disbelief. And what's on the opposite end? What would be on the opposite end? Right? The opposite end, there would be iman. And what is the sifa? What is the attribute that Allah Ta'ala is specifying here? Cruelty. And he's bringing one of the most extreme examples, perhaps in this day or maybe around here, for the person that yadu'ul yatim. Now, if cruelty is all the way on this side, then what would be a manifestation of iman? The complete opposite. The complete opposite. What would that be? Subhanallah, compassion and kindness. Right? Compassion. Empathy. Right? So a person, subhanallah ta'ala, that truly manifests iman in their heart, a person that truly manifests iman in their heart, right? Subhanallah, they won't just be, subhanallah, min bab awla. Of course they're going to be kind and empathetic towards the one that's an orphan. But subhanAllah, they're not going to, on top of that, they're going to be so kind and they're going to be compassionate and empathetic to so many other people, subhanAllah, even the people that are evil towards them, even the people that, subhanAllah, treat them horribly. They're still kind to them, they still show empathy to these people. They show empathy, subhanAllah, to those who are the animals. They show empathy, subhanAllah, to the elderly. They show empathy to the children. They show empathy to the people that don't say the kindest words to them. They show empathy to everyone, right? And subhanAllah, the more empathetic and the more compassionate and the more good they are, the closer they are to the opposite end. Subhanallah. The closer they are to truly manifesting iman in their hearts. And that's why, subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala continues in this surah. He says, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Again, bringing up an extreme example. That is a manifestation of kufr. Right? Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا يَحُضُّ. They do not encourage others. يَحُضُّ عَلَى means to encourage. وَلَا يَحُضُّ. This person that rejects يوم الدين, this the day of judgment, the kafir, وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. This person does not encourage feeding the masakin, feeding the poor, feeding the meager, feeding the ones that are needy. Now we can apply this, or we can use this diagram once again and apply the same concept. Right here, Allah Ta'ala is saying, what is an attribute of kufr? What is an attribute of kufr? Here it would be in this ayah, miserliness. Right? Miserliness. Right? Look at these people. Not only do they not give and feed the poor, but they don't even encourage other people to give and feed the poor. Subhanallah. Another extreme example. Right? Which would mean that a manifestation of iman is what? What attribute? Generosity. Generosity. Subhanallah. And look, a person may be here, a person might be a Muslim and have iman in their hearts, but the person might be on this over here, the person might be here, the person might be here. Subhanallah. But the person that is all the way down here, perhaps is a person that gives and doesn't think twice. Person gives and their left hand doesn't even know that they're giving. Person finds every avenue they possibly can find to give in the way of Allah Ta'ala. The person encourages other people to give. The person sends links out to make sure that, hey, make sure you donate to this cause. I've checked and I know and I researched and this is a good cause going towards a beautiful cause. Make sure that you donate to it. Subhanallah. Some of the people that are involved themselves in philanthropy work, right? They go all the way to places like Gaza. They go all the way to people in places like Sudan. They don't want a dime out of it. All they want to do is khidmatul khalq. All they want to do is be in the service of creation, of human beings, of people who are meager and people who are poor, people who are masakin. SubhanAllah, perhaps these people are all the way on this end, right? Because they truly show generosity. SubhanAllah. Now, what's amazing about this ayah is that Allah Ta'ala in this ayah, though we translated it وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ, and they do not encourage the feeding of the poor. In Arabic, what is to feed others? What is the verb to feed others? It is أَطْعَمَ يُطْعِمْ, right? أَطْعَمَ يُطْعِمْ. But Allah Ta'ala did not say, الذي يدعو اليتيم ولا يحض على إطعام المسكين ولا يحض على إطعام المسكين. He says ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. The food of the poor, the food of the needy. Right? Not feeding the needy. Now why is that? Now subhanallah, ikhwati al-kiram, if Allah Ta'ala were to say ولا يحض على إطعام المسكين, and they do not encourage others to feed the hungry, feed the poor, then it gives the impression that the rich person, the person of wealth, the person that isn't miskeen, is taking money out of their own wealth to give it to these poor people, taking food from their own plates and giving it to these poor people. Subhanallah. However, when Allah Ta'ala says طعام المسكين, it gives the impression that this was their wealth to begin with. This was their food to begin with. Right? You think that when I'm giving this money, I'm doing people a favor. No, Allah Ta'ala is saying that these poor people, Allah Ta'ala is saying that these poor people actually have a haqq, actually have a right over your wealth. Actually have a right over the money that you think is yours, and Allah Ta'ala is saying, no, it's actually theirs. And that's why Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. They do not encourage the food of the poor, if we want to be precise and exact in the translation. Subhanallah, ikhwati al-kiram, take something away from today's dars. And that is, subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala will hold us to account for every minutia. Every minutia. Look at how Allah, subhanAllah, certain things that we know that we're going to be accountable on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah Ta'ala forgive us and allow for hisab to be overlooked. And Allah Ta'ala never calls us to account. And if we are called to account, it goes with ease. And sometimes we do reflect and we think about this day and this moment when I'm going to be asked for all the sins that I committed and I'm going to be rewarded for the good actions that I've done. But subhanAllah, how often have we thought about, yes, I have not given in charity, but how often have we thought about we have not encouraged other people from giving in charity? We have not encouraged each other. This is what Allah Ta'ala is reprimanding the kuffar. وَلَا يَحُضُّ. They don't even encourage other people. Right? Look at the minutia that Allah Ta'ala is talking about. Right? That means that even us, we will be held accountable for things that we overlook and we think to be silly, or we think to be minute, or we think to be minutias. But Allah Ta'ala is the one that will call everyone to account for every aspect of this dunya, for every opportunity lost to do good actions, and for every evil that we think was small, but was actually great in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala. وَتَحْسَبُونَهُ هَيِّنًا وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. وَتَحْسَبُونَ, you think it is small and simple. وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. But in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala it is great. نسأل الله تعالى في التوفيق. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.